Hollywood gave us pirates who talk like drunk theater actors, dress like muddy scarecrows, bury treasure every Tuesday, and solve every argument with a plank. Fun? Absolutely. Accurate? Not even close. Real pirates were cleaner, smarter, more democratic, more diverse, and sometimes better dressed than the people hunting them. So today, we are tearing apart 32 pirate myths movies sold you with a straight face. 1. Hollywood loves the idea that pirates were basically co-workers from hell, stealing from each other, backstabbing over loot, and treating betrayal like a team-building exercise. Great for drama, awful for history. Real pirate crews usually lived under written articles, and every man had to agree to them before becoming part of the crew. These were not cute little pirate suggestions scribbled on a napkin. They were contracts covering shares of treasure, injuries, chores, arguments, gambling, drinking, and punishments. Stealing from another pirate was one of the fastest ways to become extremely unpopular, extremely injured, or extremely abandoned on a lonely island. Some codes punished theft with marooning or physical mutilation, because apparently pirates believed in workplace ethics, just with more blood. Their whole business depended on trust. If the man beside you in a raid might rob you afterward, the system collapses. So yes, criminals at sea sometimes ran a tighter honesty policy than modern offices with laminated mission statements. 2. Shiver me timbers, walk the plank, ye scallywag. If that instantly triggered a pirate voice in your brain, congratulations, popular culture successfully installed fake software in your head. Most of those classic pirate phrases were not common pirate speech at all. Shiver me timbers was boosted by novels and stage performances, not by actual sea robbers casually yelling it between cannon shots. And the famous pirate accent? That owes a ridiculous amount to actor Robert Newton, who played Long John Silver in Disney's 1950 film Treasure Island. Newton used a heavy West Country English accent from the area where he grew up, and somehow one man's regional voice became the default sound of every pirate forever. Real pirates spoke in their own normal accents and languages. Mostly they probably discussed sails, weather, repairs, and navigation, which is less cinematic villain and more tired coworker explaining logistics. 3. Movies make pirates look like they spent every waking hour chugging rum straight from the bottle, like the Caribbean had invented spring break 2 centuries early. Yes, pirates drank rum. No, they were not all permanently doing bottle flips on deck. The everyday drink was often grog, rum mixed with water, and sometimes lime juice or sugar. The reason was less party lifestyle and more, please do not die from barrel water. Fresh water stored in wooden casks went foul very quickly. It could turn slimy, green, and smell like something had crawled inside, lost hope, and dissolved. Adding rum helped make it safer to drink, or at least less immediately disgusting. Later, the British Royal Navy formalized daily rum rations for sailors. So that dramatic pirate swig in every movie is partly an 18th century water safety hack. Basically, a filthy old survival filter with a buzz and worse branding. 4. Hollywood usually dresses pirates like they escaped from a trash pile during a storm. Torn shirts, dirty bandanas, and the personal grooming habits of a haunted broom. Some pirates absolutely looked rough, but plenty dressed far better than movies admit. When pirates captured merchant ships, rich clothing was valuable loot. Velvet coats, silk shirts, fine boots, embroidered waistcoats, and expensive hats were not just useful, they were a statement. Pirates wearing aristocratic fashion were basically saying, "Nice class system, we stole the outfit." It was practical theft, but also public mockery of the wealthy people who were supposed to be untouchable. Black Bart, Bartholomew Roberts, was famous for going into battle dressed in a crimson damask waistcoat, a red feathered hat, and a gold cross set with diamonds. He looked less like a sea criminal and more like a wedding guest who brought artillery. Pirates were not always ragged. Sometimes they were the best-dressed menace on the ocean. 5. In pirate movies, the eye patch usually means one thing: This man lost an eye in a dramatic sword fight and now needs to look mysterious in close-up. Very stylish. But one popular explanation is much smarter. Human eyes take time to adjust when moving from bright sunlight into darkness. On a ship, that mattered. 1 minute you are fighting on a blazing deck, the next you are rushing into the dark lower levels where you can barely see your own bad decisions. The solution may have been simple. Keep one eye covered so it stays adapted to the dark. Go below deck, switch the patch, and suddenly you have instant low-light vision without waiting around like a confused bat. Was every eye patch used this way? Probably not. Some pirates really did lose eyes, but the idea that at least some used patches as practical night vision tools is way cooler than Hollywood's lazy scar equals personality routine. 6. Movies often act like pirate ships were floating boys' clubs where women existed only as tavern decorations or dramatic hostages. That is nonsense with a cannonball attached. Anne Bonny and Mary Red famously sailed with Calico Jack Rackham in the early 18th century, and they were not there to smile in the background. Accounts describe them as fierce fighters who were far braver than many men on the crew. And even they are not the top of the pyramid. Qing Shi, a former sex worker from Canton, married a pirate captain, then took command after his death and built one of the most powerful pirate organizations in history. Her Red Flag fleet reportedly included around 1,800 ships and tens of thousands of pirates. The Chinese Navy, Portuguese forces, and British forces all failed to crush her. She retired undefeated, secured pardons, and later ran a gambling house. The most successful pirate ever was a woman, and Hollywood somehow keeps pretending it did not get the memo. 7. Movie pirates shoot flintlock pistols like action heroes, firing with perfect timing and impossible accuracy while looking cool enough to sell posters. Real flintlocks at sea were much more pathetic. These pistols needed a spark from flint-striking steel to ignite gunpowder. Now add salt spray, damp air, tropical humidity, and the general misery of living on a wet wooden box. Suddenly, your fancy pistol becomes a dramatic paperweight. Misfires were common, and even when the gun worked, you had one shot. Reloading took time, calm hands, and conditions much better than men screaming on a rocking ship. So after firing, pirates often flipped the pistol around and used the heavy grip as a club. That is why some carried 4, 5, or 6 pistols across their chest. Not because they were fashion icons of violence, but because maybe half would actually fire. The rest were expensive metal hammers with dreams. 8. Thanks to Pirates of the Caribbean, people imagine the Flying Dutchman as a terrifying supernatural pirate warship ruled by some ocean floor nightmare king. The original legend is much less pirate and much more corporate shipping disaster. In maritime folklore, the Flying Dutchman was usually described as a Dutch East India Company vessel, basically the old world equivalent of a very serious delivery truck. The story says the ship tried to round the Cape of Good Hope during a terrible storm. Its captain, often named Willem van der Decken, either cursed God, refused to turn back, or stubbornly challenged the weather like a man having a personal argument with clouds. As punishment, the ship was doomed to sail forever and never reach port. That is it. No pirate empire, no underworld crew, no sea monster office politics. Just a furious Dutch merchant captain who yelled at a storm and became an eternal cautionary tale about anger management. 9. Hollywood acts like every pirate used the same flag. Black cloth, white skull, maybe crossed bones, because apparently all pirates shopped from one very limited evil flag catalog. In reality, pirate flags worked more like personal branding. Famous captains designed their own symbols, and many were aggressively dramatic. Blackbeard's alleged flag showed a skeleton holding an hourglass and aiming a spear at a bleeding heart, which is not exactly a subtle message. It basically screamed, "Your time is over, and my customer service policy is murder." Other pirates used skeletons, swords, daggers, skulls, hourglasses, and armed figures. The goal was psychological warfare. A flag told a merchant ship who was approaching and whether surrender was the smart option. Some flags became so feared that ships surrendered as soon as they recognized them. No battle needed. Pirates understood branding centuries before corporations started pretending a logo was a personality. 10. The parrot on the shoulder is one of the most familiar pirate images ever. Colorful bird, rude squawk, captain looking dramatic. Cute? Absolutely. Historically reliable? Not really. Pirates did encounter parrots and other exotic animals, but those birds were not usually beloved little crew members with catchphrases. They were valuable cargo with feathers. Exotic animals could sell for high prices in Europe, where wealthy people were constantly desperate to own something strange, tropical, and expensive enough to impress dinner guests. To a parrot was not a pet. It was a flying sack of money that occasionally screamed. The entire shoulder parrot cliché mostly comes from Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, where Long John Silver has a parrot named Captain Flint. One fictional bird from an 1883 novel somehow colonized every Halloween costume, cartoon, and pirate joke forever. That parrot did more for pirate branding than most actual pirates. 11. In many pirate movies, the crew looks like someone cast a British period drama and then added dirt. Mostly white, mostly British, mostly one accent, as if piracy had a strict hiring department. Real pirate crews were often far more diverse. Ships could include Europeans from many nations, indigenous sailors, mixed-race sailors, and black sailors, including men who had escaped slavery. Some historians estimate that black pirates made up a major share of certain crews. And unlike many legal navies and merchant ships, pirate crews could offer something closer to equality. On many ships, black pirates carried weapons, received shares of plunder, and voted on decisions alongside the rest of the crew. For an escaped slave in the early 18th century, a pirate ship could be one of the few places where freedom was even remotely possible. The criminals of the ocean sometimes built more diverse workplaces than the respectable empires trying to hang them. Awkward little detail, is it not? 12. Movies love the grizzled lifelong pirate. Decades at sea, beard full of salt, tragic past, probably a dramatic coat. Very cinematic, mostly fake. For many real pirates, the career lasted only 1 or 2 years. Piracy was not usually a lifelong calling from childhood, like someone dreaming, "One day, I shall rob merchants professionally." It was often desperation. Unemployed sailors, escaped slaves, deserters, and men fleeing brutal merchant service turned pirate because the legal world had treated them like disposable equipment. Many stayed only long enough to grab money, then escaped the lifestyle if they could. Some accepted government pardons, including the famous 1718 pardon offered under King George I. Others quietly disappeared into ordinary life as farmers, merchants, or tavern owners. The romantic career pirate is largely a myth. For many, piracy was a dangerous short-term hustle in a world with almost no safety net, less legendary destiny, more terrible economy with cannons. 13. The filthy pirate stereotype is everywhere. Greasy hair, rotten teeth, blackened clothes, and the general smell of abasement that fought a wet dog and lost. But many pirate crews were cleaner than the sailors serving in official navies. The reason was not elegance. It was survival. Pirate ships were small, crowded, and isolated. If disease broke out, it could tear through the crew fast, and there was no replacement staff waiting behind a desk. Pirates may not have understood germs, but they understood that filth killed. Some pirate articles included rules about keeping living areas in the ship clean. Meanwhile, naval sailors were often packed into miserable conditions under officers who could always force more men into service. So the savage pirates sometimes cared more about ship hygiene than the respectable military forces hunting them. The skull flag criminals may have smelled better than the men sailing under royal banners. History loves irony, and this one came with soap. 14. Pirate movies always promise treasure chests overflowing with gold coins, jewels, and shiny nonsense, while dramatic music practically screams, "Look, wealth!" Real pirate loot was often much less glamorous. Think lumber, rope, cloth, sugar, tobacco, soap, food, tools, and medicine. Yes, medicine. For pirates, a good medical chest could be more valuable than fancy jewelry, because jewelry does not stop your crew from dying horribly at sea. In 1718, Blackbeard blockaded Charleston, South Carolina, and his great terrifying demand was not a mountain of gold. It was a chest of medicine, likely including treatments for diseases spreading through his crew. That is both historically fascinating and weirdly relatable. Even one of the most feared pirates in the Atlantic was basically saying, "Hand over the medical supplies or things get unpleasant." Forget buried gold. Sometimes the real jackpot was soap, bandages, and something strong enough to treat your crew's horrifying private problems. 15. Hollywood captains love killing their own men over every tiny mistake. Spill a drink, sneeze too loudly, look slightly confused, and suddenly you are shark food. Real pirate captains could be brutal, but randomly executing crew members was terrible business. A pirate ship depended on skilled sailors, fighters, carpenters, gunners, cooks, and navigators. You cannot replace those people in the middle of the Atlantic by posting a job advertisement on a coconut. Dead crew meant fewer hands, weaker raids, and lower survival odds. Common punishment for many offenses was Moses' law, meaning 39 lashes on the bare back. The number came from a biblical tradition that kept punishment below 40. More serious crimes, especially stealing from the crew, could mean marooning on an island with almost nothing. Execution usually required crew approval and was reserved for extreme cases. Pirates were harsh, but not stupid. Even criminals understood that dead employees generate very poor revenue. 16. Hollywood makes the Golden Age of Piracy feel like it lasted forever, as if generations of pirates passed down skull flags like family heirlooms. In reality, the classic Caribbean era everyone keeps filming was shockingly short. The most famous period, featuring Blackbeard, Calico Jack, Anne Bonny, Charles Vane, and similar names, ran roughly from 1715 to 1730. Around 15 years. That is shorter than some television franchises about pirates. The boom happened after the War of the Spanish Succession ended in 1714, leaving thousands of sailors unemployed and surrounded by leftover ships, weapons, and highly transferable robbery skills. Then governments finally started responding with pardons, crackdowns, trials, and hangings. Within a decade and a half, the iconic pirate explosion was largely crushed. All the costumes, movies, theme restaurants, and skull mugs are built around a historical window shorter than some celebrity feuds. 15 years of chaos created centuries of merchandise. That is terrifyingly effective marketing. 17. The treasure map with a giant red X may be the ultimate pirate image. Mysterious island, hidden chest, dramatic digging, everyone gets rich. Lovely story, almost complete nonsense. Most pirates did not bury treasure because they did not think like patient investment bankers with shovels. They spent their loot quickly in port towns on alcohol, gambling, sex, food, clothes, and every other service designed to drain pirate pockets. Places like Nassau and Port Royal were basically pirate Las Vegas without the polite carpets. The one famous confirmed case of buried pirate treasure involves Captain William Kidd, who hid loot on Gardiner's Island near New York in 1699. He hoped it might help him negotiate during his legal trouble. It did not. He was hanged. So the grand myth of pirate treasure maps mostly grows from one desperate man's failed court strategy. Imagine building an entire global fantasy around one criminal's bad legal planning. Actually, that sounds exactly like humanity. 18. Pirate boarding scenes in movies always include someone swinging on a rope, sword out, coat flapping, landing perfectly on the enemy deck like a circus performer with criminal intent. It looks amazing. It is also a wonderful way to break multiple bones and instantly regret your entire lifestyle. Ships at sea do not sit still like theater stages. They roll, pitch, slide, and lurch unpredictably. Swinging between two moving ships while holding weapons and wearing heavy boots is not tactical genius. It is gravity waiting patiently with a clipboard. Real boarding was far more practical. Pirates used grappling hooks to pull ships close together, then crossed by planks, rails, rigging, or simple climbing. They also use stink pots, nasty homemade smoke devices filled with sulfur and foul materials to confuse defenders before boarding. Effective? Yes. Cinematic? Not nearly enough. Hollywood chose flying sword acrobatics because men coughing through rotten smoke and climbing carefully does not sell as well. 19. Movies show sailors and pirates diving off ships and swimming away like the ocean is just a big, dramatic swimming pool. Here is the problem. Many sailors in the 17th and 18th centuries could not swim at all. Yes, people who spent their lives on water often had no useful way to survive in it. Falling overboard was not an inconvenience. It was usually a death sentence. No life jackets, no rescue helicopters, no cute inflatable flamingo. Even if land or another ship was visible, you could still drown almost immediately, especially in heavy clothing and rough water. Some navies even discouraged swimming because officers believed men who could not swim would fight harder to keep the ship afloat. That is not strategy. That is motivational cruelty with a uniform. So every time a movie pirate casually escapes by swimming through wreckage, remember, the real version probably sank like a boot full of regret. 20. Pirate movies are obsessed with enormous ships, huge galleons, towering masts, cannon rows, and enough crew to staff a depressing warehouse. Visually, fantastic. Practically, a nightmare. Real pirates often preferred smaller, faster vessels like sloops. A giant ship was slow, needed a large crew, required more supplies, drew attention, and could not easily hide in shallow waters. A sloop, however, was fast, nimble, and could slip into coves, coastal channels, and island shallows where heavy naval ships struggled to follow. Pirates were not trying to win a beauty contest for most intimidating floating castle. They wanted a getaway vehicle. Speed, surprise, and escape mattered more than huge cannons. A massive warship screamed, "Please send the Navy." A sloop whispered, "You saw nothing," and vanished around an island. Hollywood loves firepower because it looks epic. Pirates loved not getting caught, because not getting caught is traditionally healthier. 21. Movies make pirate ships look like floating taverns where everyone is drunk all the time and still somehow competent in combat. In reality, a crew operating that way would have exploded, drowned, or crashed into something deeply embarrassing within days. Many pirate codes had strict rules about drinking, especially below deck. Bartholomew Roberts' articles, for example, required lights out at 8 in the evening, and anyone who wanted to keep drinking had to do it on the open deck. Why? Because below deck sat gunpowder, and gunpowder has famously poor chemistry with candles, sparks, lit pipes, and drunk idiots. One careless flame near the wrong barrel could turn a pirate ship into a brief, expensive firework. Pirates absolutely drank, but they also understood that a party near explosives is just a funeral with music. Hollywood shows endless rum chaos. Real pirates had drinking rules because survival is easier when nobody converts the ship into smoke. 22. In pirate movies, every naval fight becomes a cannon festival. Ships splintering, masts collapsing, explosions everywhere, and everyone behaving like repair costs do not exist. Real pirates generally wanted the opposite. Their goal was to capture cargo, and often the ship itself. You do not maximize profit by turning your prize into floating toothpicks. Cannon fire was dangerous, expensive, and destructive. The smarter tactic was fear. Raise a terrifying flag, fire a warning shot, close in fast, and let the merchant crew make a sensible life choice. Most merchant sailors were not paid enough to die heroically defending someone else's sugar, cloth, or insurance problem. Many captures happened with little or no fighting at all. The pirates boarded, took cargo, maybe recruited sailors, and moved on. A major battle meant intimidation had failed. It was not the plan. It was the plan falling face first into stupidity while holding a cannon fuse. 23. Hollywood treats scurvy like a funny pirate inconvenience. Missing teeth, silly gums, maybe one joke, and back to the adventure. Real scurvy was body horror at sea. It came from lack of vitamin C because fresh fruits and vegetables spoiled quickly on long voyages. First came exhaustion, then swollen, bleeding gums, teeth loosened and fell out. Then the body started betraying itself in ways that sound medically illegal. Old wounds reopened because connective tissue broke down. Skin darkened with blotches, bones weakened. Depression, confusion, and hallucinations could follow. Sailors were not just a little sick. They were being dismantled from the inside by nutritional deficiency. Historians estimate scurvy killed enormous numbers of sailors from the 16th to 18th centuries, far more than many battles. It probably killed more pirates than the navies chasing them. Turning that into a cute missing tooth joke is one of cinema's most casually disrespectful historical edits. 24. Movies show pirate ships cruising around with the skull flag proudly flying all day, as if pirates wanted every naval patrol to have advance notice. In real life, that would be like a bank robber arriving with a banner that says, "Robbery begins in 5 minutes." Pirates were sneaky. They carried flags from different nations and used them to get close to targets. If the victim was British, Spanish, French, or Dutch, the pirate might fly a friendly or believable flag and approach calmly. Only when the target was trapped and escape was nearly impossible would the false flag come down and the Jolly Roger go up. That moment was designed to terrify the crew into surrendering immediately. The pirate flag was not everyday decoration. It was a weapon deployed at the perfect second. Basically, pirates invented nautical catfishing centuries before anyone ruined dating apps with it. 25. The black spot is one of the creepiest pirate ideas ever. A marked piece of paper delivered like an official death sentence. Receive it, and your fate is sealed. Very dramatic. Also fake. The black spot was invented by Robert Louis Stevenson for his 1883 novel Treasure Island. There is no good historical evidence that real pirate crews used marked papers as formal death notices. Real pirates did not need stationery to be frightening. If they wanted someone punished, they had direct methods, and sometimes they even voted first, because pirate democracy was weirdly committed to procedure. Stevenson's fictional device was so memorable that people now assume it was an ancient pirate tradition. That is the power of good storytelling. One novelist sitting in Scotland accidentally manufactured a piece of pirate culture so convincing that generations swallowed it whole. Honestly, Stevenson did more fake pirate world-building than half of Hollywood combined, and he did it without a special effects budget. 26. Hollywood often presents pirate crews as chaos mobs. Captain yelling, men drinking, discipline non-existent, everyone vibing toward crime. The truth is much stranger. Pirate ships could be surprisingly democratic at a time when much of the world was ruled by kings, aristocrats, and people who genuinely believed bloodlines were a management qualification. Pirate captains were often elected by the crew and could be removed if they became incompetent, greedy, cowardly, or too unbearable to tolerate. Crews signed written articles that covered loot shares, injuries, duties, behavior, and punishment. The quartermaster often handled daily disputes and kept the captain's power in check. The captain usually had stronger authority during battle, when voting on every cannonball would be a little slow. So, while European monarchs were busy acting chosen by heaven, pirate crews were writing contracts and holding elections on stolen ships. Criminal? Yes. Oddly modern? Also yes. 27. Everyone knows the black pirate flag with the skull. Movies treat it as the ultimate threat. But historically, the black flag was often the less terrifying option. It generally meant, surrender and you may live. That was the whole point. Scare the target into giving up without bloodshed. The flag you truly did not want to see was red. A red flag could signal no quarter, meaning no mercy and no survivors if resistance continued or if the pirates were already enraged. Some historians connect the name Jolly Roger to the French phrase Joli Rouge, meaning pretty red, though the exact origin is debated. Either way, the message of a red flag was brutally simple. Negotiation time is over. Hollywood sticks to skulls because skulls look better on posters and coffee mugs. But the plain red flag was often much scarier. Apparently, real terror has poor merchandising potential. 28. Pirate earrings look like pure style in movies. Gold hoops, outlaw swagger, maybe a little sparkle before a sword fight. But those earrings often had a much darker, practical purpose. Many sailors wore gold earrings to pay for their own burial. The ocean killed people constantly, and bodies could wash ashore far from home. If someone found a dead sailor, the earring could be taken as payment for giving him a proper Christian burial instead of leaving him to rot on the beach like unwanted cargo. Some sailors supposedly engraved their home port or a name inside the hoop, turning it into a grim little identification tag. So that cool pirate jewelry was not just fashion. It was a prepaid funeral plan hanging from the ear of a man who knew retirement at sea was not exactly guaranteed. Suddenly, the gold hoop feels less dangerous rebel and more, my corpse has a budget. 29. Walking the plank may be the most famous pirate punishment in pop culture. Blindfold, slow steps, sword at the back, splash, sharks, dramatic music. Historically, it barely existed. There are only a few documented cases, and many come from outside the classic Golden Age of Piracy. Real pirates generally did not waste time staging theatrical executions for the vibes. If they wanted to punish someone, marooning was much more common. Dump the person on an island with little food, little water, and sometimes one pistol with one shot, because pirates apparently enjoyed psychological seasoning. Then there was keel hauling, which involved dragging a person under the ship's hull. The underside was covered in barnacles sharp enough to slice flesh, while the victim also risked drowning. Compared to that nightmare, a plank almost sounds polite. Hollywood picked the cleaner visual because the real punishments were too brutal for popcorn entertainment. 30. Most people hear pirate and imagine a word born in the Caribbean, maybe from Spanish taverns, salty sailors, and too much rum. Nope. The word is ancient. It comes from the Greek pirates, connected to piran, meaning to attack, attempt, or try. The term passed into Latin as pirata, then through Old French, and eventually into English. So when you say pirate, you are using a word with roots going back more than 2,000 years. Aristotle might have recognized the general idea, and would probably have ruined the mood with a long philosophical question about property. Piracy itself is almost as old as ships carrying valuable goods. The moment humans realized boats could move wealth across water, someone else realized they could attack the boat and skip the hard part. Caribbean pirates were not the beginning. They were just the most merchandisable chapter in a very old human habit. 31. Movies love a pirate with a wooden peg leg doing dramatic swordplay on a rocking deck, balancing like a circus master with a revenge problem. Fun image, terrible realism. Losing a limb in the age of piracy was catastrophic. There were no antibiotics, no sterile operating rooms, and very little pain relief beyond alcohol, luck, and screaming through something leather. Amputations might be performed by a surgeon if the ship had one, or by the cook, because the cook was experienced with knives and cutting meat, which is medically horrifying but technically understandable. If you survive the cutting, infection could still kill you. If you survived that, your combat days were usually over. You might be reassigned to cooking or other ship duties. Pirate articles often included compensation for injuries, with different payments for lost arms, legs, fingers, or eyes. It was workers' compensation run by criminals. Somehow, pirates figured this out before many respectable governments did. 32. Hollywood sells the pirate as the ultimate rebel. No king, no flag, no law, just a free man spitting in society's face from the deck of a stolen ship. The reality was often much more bureaucratic, which is less romantic but very funny. Many pirates started as privateers, meaning government-approved raiders. Countries like England, France, Spain, and the Netherlands issued letters of marque, official documents allowing private ships to attack enemy vessels during wartime. It was piracy with paperwork, which instantly makes it sound less cool and more like maritime tax policy. The problem came when wars ended. Suddenly, these sailors had ships, weapons, combat experience, and no legal permission to keep robbing people. Some simply continued without the documents. Famous figures like Henry Morgan and Captain Kidd operated under official authorization at different points. The line between patriot and pirate could be one expired contract. As usual, bureaucracy was the final boss. So the next time a movie pirate screams "Arr" while hugging a parrot and hunting buried gold, remember, you are not watching history. You are watching 2 centuries of fiction wearing a very convincing hat. Now here is the dangerous part. Which pirate lie did Hollywood sell so well that people still believe it is fact? Drop it in the comments because I guarantee we missed someone's favorite fake pirate truth. And if this video ruined pirates for you in the best possible way, hit like and subscribe before Hollywood teaches you that Vikings had motorcycle helmets.